Estelle, welcome to our Conscious podcast. It's wonderful to have you here. And I've got so much to talk to you about because your life is rich in many, many areas. For those of us who haven't met you before, describe who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'd love to say it's a great pleasure to be on the podcast. Really excited about our conversation. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Estelle Lloyd. I'm co-founder and COO of a company called Macadamia. We are a media and ed tech company for families. We are present in pretty much globally in 22 languages. Our presence is through TV channels, as well as in the app stores, as well on social media channels. And we are trying to be on every touch point that children and their parents are to look for really interesting content to watch, interactive experiences to have. And so that's what we do. I've been running the company since 2015. And one of the things that I really like to mention is that I started this business out of a personal need. I have three young children. They're obviously older than they were in 2015, but at the time I was looking for a place where I could find great resources for my kids, since they are going to be online and on devices as much as we try not to. But and that's definitely a parenting struggle. We don't need to get into details of that. We all know what this is about. But I sort of thought at the time, I don't really feel comfortable with some of the places that my children find themselves in exploring content, whether it's interactive or video content. And so I wanted to put together a resource which had fun, but also meaningful, authentic, interesting, inspiring, story led experiences. And our mission is to create a smarter, kinder world. That's what we live by every day. It has been a huge compass and a very important one for everything that we do. And so that's how I started Macadamia.
And ed tech, education and technology combined, for, as you said, whatever they've got their fingers on, whether it's an iPad, a phone, or a TV remote, is a really important, well, it's fundamental to what you do, education, isn't it?
It is. You've mentioned the touch points. They are our entry point into families and our touch point with kids. We, ed tech, educational technology, really for us is finding ways to make that educational experience fun and engaging. That's really where the technology plays a huge part. We don't just have TV programming on our app or channels. We also have interactive experiences. They can be, for example, a little quiz that you take after watching an episode of a series, just to check the learning and just to have a really fun interactive experience based on what you've just watched. That's an example of an interesting piece of content that we add. So that's how we add the educational technological value on top of the programming that we have.
And I was looking at the website. So Da Vinci is your channel, if you like. Is that the right term for it? And I saw some of those quizzes. What's the uptake on that kind of stuff that goes with it? Because it's not, I mean, I haven't seen it before. I haven't seen anyone else doing that kind of stuff. Watch the documentary and then look, have a quiz, have a this, just let's see how much that information sunk in. I've never seen that before.
Yes, and yeah, we're trying to do things that are new and interesting. We're not trying to do what everybody else is doing very well elsewhere. Quizzes are a very well tried and tested method of engaging and checking for learning and really adding that additional experience of interactivity, that lean in as opposed to lean back, which is very much a TV watching experience. We also use it as a second screen experience. So the Da Vinci Channel is a linear channel on a lot of platforms, whether it's a pay TV platform or a fast platform, which are the new linear platforms coming from the US and are launching now in the UK on platforms like Rakuten TV or Samsung Plus, where you can literally tune in and watch a channel. That removes the big question of, okay, going through an entire library of hundreds of titles, deciding what you want to watch. You leave the decision to us as to how we program the channel for various parts of the day. So we have a back to school block, we have a kickstart the day with some inspirational stories in the morning, and so we take that editorial, or that choice, that decision making out of the process and make it easy. But obviously, we also have all of this on the app on demand. So you can go and binge watch a series on the app. So these are the touch points.
Really interesting, and almost going a nod to going back in time. I mean, when I first started at the BBC, there was no streaming. There were schedulers who decided which programs were going on when, and that was very much an art form, actually, working out who wanted to watch what when, and almost to a degree what they should be watching. The BBC has very much got education at its heart, so I hear very much what you're doing. How does all of this then apply to sustainability, to the world of making our world a better place?
Sure. So going back to our mission, which is, the most important aspect of who we are and what we do, our mission is to create a smarter, kinder world through programming and interactive experiences and storytelling. And so looking at that space, that white space that we fill, we always look at it and think about what is important, what matters to families and kids today. What do they gravitate towards? What do they want to see? So we run a lot of focus groups. We talk a lot to parents and kids as well, and try to understand where we should be taking our programming. And unsurprisingly, sustainability, the environment, looking after the planet is a huge topic. It consistently comes back into top of mind, top topic that parents want to see more of. We never have enough programming on sustainability and environment. We are always looking to either create some ourselves or buy it from studios, and so it's a huge topic for us, which is why I was really excited to be on your podcast today, because I think there's a big role that we can play in raising awareness, not just about what is happening in the world, but also the part that we can take as families and as children in making things better in preservation, in conservation, in sustainability, and there's some really lovely programming that we've been able to find. So I'm really excited to tell you more about it.
Can you describe some of those programs? What are the ones that really, do you think? I mean, the danger, of course, with this whole area in terms of programming is encouraging and inspiring rather than doom and gloom, which is, it's tough because the situation isn't great for many species on our planet. The situation isn't great for our planet. But making that, particularly when you're in that realm of children, making that inspiring as opposed to depressing. How do you tread that line editorially?
That's a really excellent question. And I should say, I have a team of people who actually look at every piece of programming. Some of them are educators. They used to be primary school teachers, for example. Some of them are media experts, media buyers. So we have a whole range of professionals who look at this from, lots of different perspectives. I would say, I would break it down into two parts. One part is the programming that really will inspire you to care. So we have a lot of factual documentaries, beautiful, like really stunning programming, whether it's about the ocean or whether it's about exploration or forests, and that is still very important today. I think it is important for everyone really to look at the bigger picture and really to understand what the world really looks like, what it is about. And we have a lot of kids that are watching our channels, particularly the free channels, who have never been outside of a big city, for example. So they really have no appreciation of what we're really talking about here, the mountains and the sea and, the ocean. And so I would say that that category remains quite critical and quite important to set the context. And then we take a step further. We have made a conscious decision to take a step further and to say, all right, we don't want to be the doom and gloom shoving down your throat all this, terrible news about there's no planet B. We want to inspire you to take a part in your daily life as a family into what you can do. They could be very small actions, they could be slightly bigger actions, but they are a full range of actions that can be taken. And so we look specifically for this type of programming. I'll give you a few examples because I think that they really speak for themselves. We have a series called Go Green with the Greenways, which follows a family with kids into their daily life and the steps that they are taking. Nothing revolutionary here. It's turning off the light when you leave the house. It's recycling. It's really looking at, going in to visit a garden, looking where food is being grown. Again, we all know what it is, but I mean, we might, and some of us might know what it is, but it is very important to remember that we need to make this available to kids and not assume that they will know. This is not this is not common sense here. We mustn't assume that this is common sense. So that's a series that I really love. I think that we've had amazing feedback on our customer service channels about it, and a lot of people have said thank you. It's really helped us start conversations as a family as to what we can do. Now that we've watched this, we have a much better blueprint and understanding of what it is that we can do day to day.
I love that, because so much conversation, and sometimes it's the children educating the adults. Let's not deny that fact. But so much about our behavior change comes from those family conversations, I think.
It does.
Both ways round.
Yeah, it does. And it's a very big part of what we do. The co-viewing is super important on our channels specifically.
And then you yourself, I mean, you have this incredible business track record. Your education, your own personal education, was mainly a business one. Am I right?
It is, yes. Yeah, I'm business degree entrepreneur by background, yes.
And then along the way, you've clearly had this real passion for education. Where did that come from?
Um, well, my mom was a school teacher, so education has always been part of my family growing up. I did not study. I didn't study to be a teacher. I didn't go into education. But when my children were very little, I saw a white space that I wanted for myself first and foremost, and sort of went into this and built this business. And then we made an acquisition in 2019 of another business and combined them. That gave us immediately a much bigger scale. We're available in 22 languages. We reach 250 million families around the world. We work with the biggest blue chip partners in the space. We work with, really huge businesses like Vodafone, Telefonica, Amazon, to distribute our service to as many families and kids as possible. We work with school and educational partners. So it's been a really interesting and crazy journey, but a very fulfilling and rewarding one as well. It's yeah.
Yeah, and you've won tons of awards, which is fantastic. So you know that you're doing a great job. I'm intrigued by your courage, though, because as you said, there was this space, but also there was this brave woman who was going to say, okay, I'm up against giants here. I'm up against the likes of National Geographic, BBC. These are huge, huge brands. It's not just like, oh, it's a busy business space. I'm sure I can stand out. These are massive Goliath brands. What gave you the courage to do it?
I mean, look, there's a part of being an entrepreneur which is, if you know the road ahead, you probably wouldn't do it, right? There's a part of it which is, sitting really on the diving board and thinking, okay, I'm just going to do it. It feels like the right thing to do. I have to do it, and obviously, you're starting this podcast. You're also, an entrepreneur, and at some point you mustn't overthink it. You have to follow your guts, and more importantly, having that drive and that passion for the mission, which is really born out of a personal need as a parent first and foremost, has been a huge driver. And yes, we are the youngest kid on the block in an industry which is filled with giants who maybe have lost a little bit of the mission and the passion, and that's where we come in with a huge story, and also the ability to be very quick on our feet, to make quick decisions, to really follow trends, and that is a huge, I think, a huge advantage that we have. Let's not kid ourselves. It is a tough space to be, as you said, because we are a tiny independent media business in a sea of huge giants. But we also have incredible supporters and partners who really believe in what we do, and also are global. The thing also is that we are a global company. And so being global enables us to work with global partners who might not want to work with a content partner who's a regional player, for example, or broadcaster.
So that's a good strength. You're reminding me of a history lesson to do with the Armada and a battle at sea, probably with Nelson. And the big ships were wading on in there, and it looked like they couldn't be beaten. But the small ships actually had the ability to dodge and weave and go with the flow of the battle, and ended up winning. There's some battle and somebody listening will know and be shouting at me. There's some battle that was won in that way. And that's exactly what you're reminding me of.
Well, it's a battle. I mean, look, entrepreneurship, and maybe that's a topic for different podcasts, or different conversations. Is it is an up and down story. It is an up and down journey. It really is. Again, I think that having a strong mission that is not just my personal mission, but also everyone in the 100+ employees that we have in the company, everybody starts the day with the same mission, and that really carries us a long, long way.
And the idea of good business, has changed. I love that thought that it used to be just a business that made money. Now, good business is something different. And I also think we're all fascinated by female entrepreneurs who are making it work and who have a mission. So, any advice to anyone else who might be listening, thinking, but I really want to do this, I'm just too scared?
Um, so first of all, I'm glad you mentioned money, because we mustn't forget that the purpose of our business is to make money as well. We have to have a sustainable business. We have to be able to pay salaries. We have to be able to sustain. We have to be able to produce and buy content. I think one of the really important piece of advice that I would give to women is to really not downplay this. Women are capable of running businesses that are very successful and make a lot of money. We must must shout it out loud and clear, because right, it's there's still a little bit of an assumption, right, in that you can't be a woman and be as driven by financial success as and which is completely untrue. So yes, that's one of the things that I wanted to share here. But I think also beyond the mission, it's been really exciting and fun for us to really try and find ways to explore certain topics in a way that maybe hasn't been done before, or that will inspire or create conversations that go beyond what has been discussed traditionally. And sort of going back to what we were saying about the environment and taking a part, is I'd like to give you another example of a series that we created last year, which is called Kids Try. And we were looking for an idea. We were brainstorming with my team and thinking, what can we do to get kids interested that has never been done before, and that really will bring the topic from a completely different and unexpected angle. So we decided to create this series where kids try foods that are of from the future or foods from the sea, and start the conversation about the environment from that point on. So you have kids trying bugs, or vegetarian vegan food, for example, or and so it's a really really fun series to watch, because for example, there's one of the dish is a vegan burger, and then we start the conversation with, what do you think, how does it taste, are you surprised, you like it, you think it's yummy, would you like to eat it again, etc. And then at some point we veer into, why do you think it's important to eat a vegan burger as opposed to a traditional meat burger? And then we go into the conversation of how many animals a day do you think are killed in the US, you know in the production of, and the answers are hilarious for little kids saying, oh, maybe 20. And and so it's a really very 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 sweet way of engaging and starting this conversation from a completely unexpected angle. The kids don't go into being filmed on the set thinking that they're going to be being asked questions and being have to think about the environment and the choices that they make day to day and the impact that they have, but we end up having this conversation organically. It's really really lovely. Equally, part of this series was to also do another take of it, which is kids meet and interview people who have jobs and passions around the environment. So kids meet an activist, for example, and the activist is sitting and answering questions from three little kids aged between 7 and 12, and they ask anything that comes through their mind. It's completely unfiltered, which is so lovely. And so the activist is explaining how he and a bunch of friends rented some canoes to go and block one of the big oil manufacturers from accessing the offshore platform. And they made a big thing, and they made sure the press was there. And the little kid says, so listens very carefully to what the activist is saying and says, hang on a minute. So you went into plastic canoes. and, and so that light, there is that light bulb moment of, what, question everything. Just listen and question everything and say what you think, because what you're saying here is very relevant and very true. And the activist is like, well, sometimes you find yourself in this situation where you have to make this decision. It's really really fun. So yes, so I wanted to highlight this because we have the big picture, the big documentaries about what the world looks like, but we also have this sort of quirky independent productions day to day. This is what you can do. Think about your actions, try to be part of it if you decide to, and we're going to give you the tips to do that.
Tell me a bit more then. Let's unpack that mission, because everything about the channel, the Da Vinci Channel, everything about Macadamia, it all comes back to smarter, kinder world. Am I right?
Correct.
Tell me about that. What does that mean? A smarter, kinder world. What does it look like?
It's first of all really up to us to shape what our definition is. So our definition for this particular mission is to really find stories that are inspiring, is to understand what parents and kids want. So we do a lot of focus groups. We got a parents advisory board. We do a lot of surveys. We ask what would be useful for you at this point in time. What would you like? For example, financial literacy is a big topic that has come up literally in the last 12 months.
I'm so happy to hear you say that.
No one was ever talking about this, and all of a sudden, bang, and we are right in it, looking for a partner, maybe a financial institution, maybe a big company, to build this with us, which is typically how we go into building our programming, being a small independent media brand. Very helpful to have the backing and also the input from people who work in this space. And so we're working on this right now, and that's an example of a topic that comes through to us by looking at what's happening in the wider space, but also having that very close relationship with our audience. So other topics that we cover, because I think that a lot actually goes into a smarter kind of world. We've, for example, released recently an original which we developed with Bear Grylls Becoming X company. It's called Becoming Extraordinary. And Becoming Extraordinary is exploring what success means. What does it mean to be the top person in your field? How do you get there? What are the sacrifices that you have to make along the way? How do you celebrate the wins? And what makes you feel good at the end? And what does success actually mean for you? And it's based on interviews with really extraordinary talent, celebrities who are at the absolute top of their field. So it's Roger Federer, it's Julia Roberts, it's Team Peak, it's de Klerk, former president of South Africa. And it's really understanding their journey and when they made that conscious decision that this is what they wanted to pursue. And there is a common thread in all of this. And these interviews, I have to say, I have watched so many of them, whether it's because we were looking at rough cuts or the finished episodes. So I've had the pleasure of watching them over and over again. And they do give you that boost of inspiration where you, at the end of the day, think this is available to me. It's available. That journey is available to me. The end result, maybe it's something else, but that journey of really understanding what matters to me, what my passion is, how far I want to push it, the sacrifices that I'm prepared to make along the way. When you hear about Roger Federer moving away from his family, age 14, and leaving his family behind, his friends, and living with another family and training every single day, and the hardship and it's pretty compelling and pretty inspiring to watch this. And so going back to your question, what does a smarter kind of world means for us? It's really exploring all these topics that encompass 21st century learning. So we do a lot of STEM. We have a lot of STEM programming, understanding what really STEM means. What does it mean to be an engineer? What are the core skills and what are the professions that fit within the STEM category? um, I'm particularly interested in looking at programming that provide a strong representation of girls in STEM, which is, I think, quite critical. Um, so another example of the type of programming that we're looking for. We have some practical programming, which is a bit experimental based, looking at a lot of like science experiments, arts and crafts. Creativity is a big component of what we do as well. I hope that provides a good picture of what our programming is about. And at the end of the day, it really comes down to, is it inspirational? Is it serving a purpose? Is it authentic? Is it value driven? And do parents want to have that kind of programming? Do we have actual factual evidence that this is what parents and their kids want to watch right now?
Because at the end of the day, if no one watches it, there's no point in making it.
Correct.
Absolutely, I know that one. And how about you? I mean, I know that you just mentioned the word authentic, and I know that in your downtime, such as it is, you're a passionate supporter of the NSPCC. These issues for you are bigger than just work, aren't they? These kind of issues of education, of well-being for children, inspiration, making the world a better place. It's how you live your life. Where does that come from? What's your why?
Good question. Actually, I've mentioned my three children, and I think that it is super important for kids today and parents to be given some resources and tools to try and really progress on the agenda of having a world which heals itself eventually, and trying to inspire that drive is really critical. I grew up in a very different world and environment that my kids are growing up. I grew up in the countryside. I had no devices. We had TV with 3 TV channels on. Maybe I was watching it a couple of hours a week, but we were very far from the amount of media consumption that takes place today. Interactive, oh, it didn't exist really. I would spend most of my childhood outside, having a very strong appreciation of nature and the world. It was a very smaller world than the one that my kids are exposed to today, because obviously it was me and nature and a bunch of friends. It sounds idyllic, but I'm not kidding myself in thinking that that was perfect, and the world today is flawed in comparison, because today kids have access to so many other things, so many other resources. And so that is, I think, what I want to replicate here is that if we are giving our kids access to so many resources and they have access to so much, let's make it meaningful. Let's make it impactful. Let's not waste this moment.
I hear you, and I think that's really important. I love the way that you're kind of accepting. Okay, this so many of us have, and I think particularly our generation of parents have seen the advent of the screen in all its forms and this explosion of what's available, and have kind of thought, right, well, let's try and stop this for a long time. And in the end, gave up. COVID particularly meant that we had to give up that battle to a degree. Because that was it. It was like there's the education endorsement on screens, there's every other endorsement on screens. And I love where you're coming from with that. If we accept it, but actually influence what's available, there's a whole different ballgame, accepting where we are.
Absolutely. And I think the struggle for us is going back to one of the points that you made earlier, is that we compete with experiences that are so attractive and built with so much, attraction power and commercial sitting behind it. It's sometimes really hard for us to cut through that and get to our audience. It really is, where we spend most of our time, aside from putting the best programming that we can put together. And that's why we're working with amazing partners, such as the very blue chip companies that I mentioned earlier. And you also mentioned the NSPC. My work with the NSPC is a really important one as well. I love the charity. I'm a huge supporter of the charity. I've been working with them for the past 10 years as a volunteer, and sitting on their board. These two missions join up. At some stage, at some point, they're very different, but they also come for a similar place.
I think for most of us, the opportunity to live a more sustainable life within our own life is down to a decision, but also sometimes down to a set of limiting beliefs or a set of fears or a set of what's the point beliefs. How do you combat that? How do you deal with your own mindset?
I love the way that you present it as what's the point, because I think that's very true. I think that's very true. And maybe even more so than what's the point is, I understand, but it cannot be top of the agenda. There's so many other struggles to deal with before getting to even being able to consider this. I think that our position and what we try to do is, when you decide that you can have a bit of space to tackle this, we're giving you some tools and some ways to reflect and discuss it, and trying to nurture and inspire conversations. um I think it's hard. I think it's hard to bring that into a family agenda, because again, there is so much else going on.
How do you combat those own dark thoughts in your own head, though?
Um, I don't so much have dark thoughts about this. I think that, I think Gen Z is a really interesting generation. I think that they are very driven. I think they will surprise us. I really think so. I mean, I have confidence that this is a generation that there's interestingly there's been a few studies that have just come out today, which I was reading this morning before this podcast, which are actually coming back to the point that the Gen Z generation, for a variety of reasons, are people that are going to do things. They want to be very successful. They want to make money because they have grown up, on social media looking at the fabulous life of, other people. So they are very driven. That drive also, spills into a very strong appreciation and understanding that, things are getting really real, and
Yeah.
that we can continue ignoring what's happening in the world, and that strong actions need to take place. And I love the activism that is being spurred out of events, and just day-to-day events. Actually, I was driving in London yesterday, and there was a protest against big oil in one of the streets where we live, and they stopped the traffic. And my daughter was asking, I was driving her to an appointment at a dermatologist in an electric car, by the way, I want to say.
Nice work.
And she said, "What's this?" And we had a fantastic conversation that followed about why it's important to stand for what you believe and to take action. I'm not advocating for picket fencing and protesting in the streets, and that's something that, yeah. But it's interesting for kids to see that there are people who actually do something about it. Like concretely in their life, it takes place.
Yeah. Those actions from your feelings, which I think, as you say, you need to be measured, but equally, and again, sparking good conversation. We come back to sparking good conversation with children. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. And we could have gone on and on and on for hours. What for those interested now, where can we access your work? Where can we access Da Vinci?
Oh, thanks for asking. We're in the App Store, Da Vinci, and we also a channel in the UK on Rakuten TV, on NetGem, on a few. Our website is probably the best place to actually look for that information. DaVinci.tv. We are available outside of the UK. In 22 languages, as I said, again on platforms that offer linear channels, as well as the app stores. I would say the app store is probably the common ground, the common place in all of the markets where we operate. And we're also really interested in having conversations with content creators, with brands that are interested in being part of our mission as well. As I mentioned, we are looking to create some programming and always look to create originals, ideally in partnership with other brands and actors in the space that are interested in that specific topic. So, I hope that this serves as a invitation as well for anyone to come and talk to us.
And can we dip in if we want to have a little look at the kind of programs that you're making? Is there a chance to dip in at some free content?
Yes, I mean, as I said, the fresh channels are completely free, no friction. You don't even have to create an account. You go on Rakuten TV, bang, you're on straight away. Da Vinci Channel. That's one way of having access to the entire channel completely for free. On our website, we also have a sample channel, which is available on the first landing page on our website. You can just start watching straight away, no account creation required. The app is on a free trial, so cancel anytime. Yes, I hope that provides some easy access into what we do.
Fantastic. Well, as I said, such a pleasure. I'm sure we'll keep in touch and have you back on as the channel develops and grows and grows and grows. Keep up the good work.
I would love to, and thank you. And likewise, I love what you're doing. I think this is so important. I can't wait to listen to the other participants, other people interviewed on the podcast.
So many unsung heroes doing great work. Yeah, it's exciting. Thanks, Estelle. Appreciate it. Thank you.